Hello everyone. In this tutorial video, I'm going to explain Python void function. Okay, so what is void function? How to create a void function without parameter, and how to create a function or how to define a void function with parameter or parameters. But before that, please support the channel by clicking on the subscribe button and hit also the notification bell so that you will be notified with all the new videos that I'm going to upload in this channel. And so, what is a void function? It is a user-defined function that doesn't return a value. So, you have to take note of this, user-defined. It means the programmer is the one to design or to define the functionality of the function or the task of the function. And at the same time, it does not return a value. Okay, so that is a void function. There is another type of function, it's called the fruitful function. That function is also a user-defined function, but that one return a value. So I will create a separate video for that. Just watch for that video. So in this case, we will be focusing ourselves again in the void function. So I'm going to discuss also a void function without parameter or parameters and void function with parameters. So it's possible that when you design a function, it may have a parameter or it may not have parameter or parameters. Okay, so let's have an example first of a function without parameters. So the first thing is, how do we define a function? Okay, so all we need to do is we have to use the def. All right, so let's create a function. It's called func1. Okay, so the syntax is that you have to type first def and then the name of the function. That's the second thing. And then open and close parenthesis followed by colon. So this is the syntax. Okay, so when you press enter, as you can see, it is already indented. Okay, that's the beginning of the, that is the first task of the function. So whatever statement you will put here, those are the statements to be executed by the function. Let's say, for instance, let's have an A here. This is just an example. You can always put anything in your function, inside the function. So let's say B is equal to 20, and let's say C is equal to A plus B. Let's have a simple example like this. Okay, so meaning to say, we have a function, it's called func1, and it has 3 statements. Okay, so this is the body of the function from 8, 9, and 10. Of course, you can add more. Okay, so, but right now we only have 3 statements. Okay, any statements can be here. No, you can put or you can place here if statement or conditional statements, or you can also put here loop statements. Okay, so everything you can put here inside. All right, so for instance, let's say we have here if, let's say, A is greater than, let's say, B, then we say print A. For instance, I'm just going to print A. All right, so as you can see, it is again indented because this is the body of the, this is the start of the body of the conditional statement. So again, it has now how many statements? 1, 2, 3, and 4. All right, 5 statements now. So this is the body of your function, func1. Okay, so again, you can put anything here. All right, and then in the last, since this is not returning any return value, okay, you may omit. Okay, you may put or you may omit return. Okay, so what do you mean by the return? It means it will now go back to the main program. Okay, you can omit it. It may be there or may not be there. No? So it's something like that. So when you call the function, you will say just the name. So let's say func1. And where are you going to call it? You will call it in the main program. Okay, so if we have a function here, if we have defined the function here in the upper portion of your file, so the lower portion of it will become the main program. So this will serve as your main program here. Okay, or simply you can call the function after you have defined it. So we have defined it here. So we defined it here, so we can call it now here because, okay, because the end of this function is in line 13. So we can call it now in 14 or in 15 or in 16. Okay, so I just put here a comment main program, which signifies so that I will just know where is my main program. So you can just put it here. So you can call it here. Okay, now the question is how it works. So when you call the function, okay, you have to call the function, right? So when you define a function, you have to call it so that it will work. Okay, so it's like giving a job to a particular name, and that name is func1. It's a function. So when I call that function, func1, what will happen is that it will transfer the control here. So when you run the program, it will jump here in line 7. Okay, so it will jump here in line 7. Okay, and then it will jump in line 8. It will execute line 8, after which it will execute line number 9, 10, 11. If this is true, it will execute 12. But if this is false, it will go in 13, right? So whether this is true or false, it will go still in 13. But there is no more statement in 13, so what will happen is that that's the end of the body of the function. That's the end of the function. That's the end of the task of the function func1. So what will happen is that it will now jump to 16. It will return back to 16, actually in 17. It will return to 17. So that's how it is. That's how it will work. And so let's try this one. I'm going to save first. Let's try this one again. To run this one, you can press Shift F10 or you just have to click this play button here. So let's see. All right. So I run it. So it went like this. Okay, so there is no output. Why? Let us trace our program. There is no output. Nothing in here. Let us trace our output. Okay, so we have here func1. Okay, func1. This is the main program. It will start here. So when you run the program, so it will start here. You're calling the function 1 or func1. And then it will shift or it will jump here in line 7 to process this statement. So def func1. So it will go here. It will process this. And then you assigned A to 10. I mean, you assign 10 to A. And then you assign 20 to B. So the value of A is 10. The value of B is 20. And then on line 10, you add or you added A and B. The result will be, or the sum will be in C. So the value of C is the sum of A and B. That's the meaning of that. Okay, so, and then you have here if statement. So if A is greater than B, it will print A. Okay, so what's the answer here? True or false? Is A greater than B? So A is 10, B is 20. So the result is false. So 12 will not be executed. Since this is false, it will go to 13. But in 13, nothing else. So that's the end of the function. All right? So it will now go to 17. So that's why we don't have an output. But that's how it is. All right? And so if we will just change this, let's say to B and A. Okay, so is B greater than A? So it will print A. So we are expecting now an output of A, which is 10. So I'm going to run it. I'm going to save it first. Then let's run it. So there you go. We have now the 10 here. Okay. So like I said, you can put anything here. Right? This is the body. This is the body of the function. All right. So again, you just have to make sure that everything is in this line. Okay. So since no more here in 13, that's the end of the function. Or you can also put here return, the reserved word return. Okay, again on this same very line here, this column here. All right, they should be aligned. So again, when we say return here, it means it will now go back where it was called, no? So it will return to 16 and then 17, or it will go to 17 immediately. All right, so again, let's run it. It should give us the same result, which is 10. Okay, again, the return here is optional. Okay, you may put it there or you may not put it there because it's automatically, when there is nothing here in 13, it will go back to where it was called. So it will return now to 17. It will return now to the main program. Okay, so that's how it is. Again, you can put anything here. All right, so for instance, I will also print the value of C. Okay, so when you call the function 1, it will execute this. So you're assigning 10 to A, and then it will execute this. So the value of B is 20. And then you added A and B, so that means 30, right? So the value of C is 30. And then you tested B greater than A. Is that true? Yes. So it will print A. So what's the value of A? This is 10, right? And then after that, it will execute line number 13. So the value of C, which is 30, because A plus B is 30. Okay, and then it will return. So when you run this, I am expecting 10 and 30. There you go. All right. But if I put here A greater than B, I'm just expecting, because A is 10 and B is 20, that means this is false. So automatically, it will jump in 13. Is that correct? So it's going to be like that. No? So this time, if this is our code, I am expecting 30. All right. So because this is false, this one will not be executed, line 12. So it will jump in 13 and then in 14 and then in 18. So this is an example of a function without a parameter. Okay. So again, just always remember, whatever is inside the body of the function, all of those will be executed. All right. So, and then return is optional. Okay. So it's like this. Now, let's have a function. Okay, I'm going to create another function. Let's have a function that has parameter, because this one doesn't have a parameter. So let's have another function, and we will call that function as add. Okay, let's have two arguments, 5 and, for instance, 10. Okay, so you can separate them by comma, with or without space. That is just fine. So after the comma, you can have space or without space. It doesn't matter. So 5 and 10 here are called arguments. So if you will look at our first example, func1, it doesn't have argument. Okay, so what are these arguments? Okay, or arguments. So these are the values that will go along with the function when that function is called. So whenever you call the function add, it will bring along these values, 5 and 10. These values can be integer or values with floating point value or decimal values, or string, or even character values. Okay, so in this case, let's make it simple first. It will have 5 and 10 arguments or values. Okay, so it is bringing something like it is bringing 5 and 10. When I call the add, it is bringing 5 and 10. So in this case, only 2. All right, so you can have 3, you can have 4 arguments. So let's make it simple first, 2 arguments. So how do you define now the function add? So again, we will start with def and then add. And then open and close colon. All right. Now, inside the parentheses here, you have to create a variable for the arguments. If you have 2 arguments, so you must have 2 variables, D and E, whatever variable you want, or whatever variable you would like to use here. Okay, this simply means that D will take 5 and E will take 10. So in the order they appear, no? So the first argument here is 5, the second argument is 10. And then your parameters, these are what we call parameters. D and F are called parameters. Okay, so you have 2 arguments, so you must have 2 parameters. Okay, so the first parameter will take the first argument, and the second parameter will take the second argument. So therefore, the value of D is 5 and the value of E is 10. That is the meaning of that. Right? So it is bringing these 2 numbers or values. Again, you may have space there or without space. Okay? So meaning to say, we can now process or we can use this D and E inside the body of your function. Okay? So let's say, for instance, we have here F is equal to, let's just multiply the, well, add. So because we have a add function here. So we say D plus E. And then we can just say print. Let's say I'm just going to print it. Print the value of F. So let's try and run it. So again, because we are calling, okay, we will not call the function 1. Okay, we will not call the function 1. I'm just going to call the add so that we are just focused here. Okay, so since we will not call the func1, so this one will not be executed. No? So it is possible like that. You have a function, but you will not call it. That is all. That is possible. That is just fine. Okay, so we will not call our function. So I put there the hashtag. I will just call the add. So it will execute this, right? So when I execute this or when I call add, it will go to 16. D will take 5. E will take 10. So the value of D is 5. The value of E is 10. So whatever is the result of this, it will go to 17, all right? So it will add D plus E. So that means 15. And so that is the value of F, right? And then at line 18, we will be printing F. And then on line 19, nothing is there. So that means it will now return to the main program here. All right, so I'm expecting now when I run this program, I will save it first. I'm expecting 15 here. So there you go. So when I run it, it gives me 15. Okay, so this is how you create a function with parameter or parameters. Again, the parameters can be 1 or argument, I mean. Yeah, okay, argument here, they are called arguments. So the arguments can be 1 or 2. In this case, we have 2, 3, or 4. It's up to you. It depends on the problem you are solving. But the idea is like this. So you just have to separate the arguments in comma. Same also for the parameters. Again, these are called arguments. These are called parameters. Okay? So it's going to be something like this. No? So let's have another example. Let's say, okay, so I'm going to say result. Let's have result as our function. So this time I'm going to have 1, 2, 3, 4. Let's make it simple. 10, 20, 30, 40. So we have 4 arguments. Is this possible? Yes. You can have more than one argument. You can have 1, 2, 3, or 4. Okay, and this result, what it will do, okay, we will just say that whenever I call the result, it will give me the highest number and the lowest number. All right, so here the highest number is 40 and the lowest is 10. All right, so it's like that. Okay, so I think we will be using here max and min function. No, so let's have it. So I'm going to create the definition of the function. So def and then result. Open and close, colon there. I immediately put the colon so that I will not forget. So inside here, all right, will be now the parameters. Okay, so G, H, I, J. So you have 4 arguments here, so you must have 4 parameters here. Okay, so it's always match. Okay, the number of parameters should be the same with the number of arguments. Right, so inside now, okay, what we want is we want to get the highest and the lowest. So I'm just going to say H, okay, highest is equal to, I'm just going to use the max. Okay, max is a built-in function. Okay, this is not a user-defined function. There are 2 types of function in Python. One is built-in, one is user-defined. Okay, so this is a built-in that will, whenever we call it, it will give us the maximum number. So I'm just going to say here G, H, I, J. That's the highest. What about the lowest? Lowest, I'm just going to put in the variable lowest, and then I'm just going to say min G, H, I, J. Okay, so then I'm just going to print the highest, and I'm just going to print the lowest. Okay, so that's how it is. Okay, so that's the end of it. Again, you can put anything here. I just showed to you the way of processing the parameters. Okay, so we have arguments here 4, we have here arguments here also. I mean parameters here 4, G, H, I, J. Okay, so again, you can put any statements here. Could be if, it could be loop statements. So I just make it simple like this so that you just will understand, how to use or how to put or what to put in the body of the function. Okay, so when this result is called, so it will jump here in line 20. So G will take 10, H will take 20, I will take 30, and J will take 40. So those are the values. So here, when I run it, I am expecting 40 and 10. Okay, so I'm just going to comment here in line 29. I will not execute line 29. We will just execute result. All right. So meaning to say, we're not going to call this. We're not going to call this. So I'm going to run now. There you go. So result is called. Again, func1 and add were not called because we put comment there. So they will not be executed. So this is it. 40 and 10. So when we run or when we call the result, so it went here, 20, and then it executed 21, 22, 23, and 24. In 25, no more statements, so it will come back now here in line 29 or 30 here. So no more code to be executed, so that's the end of the program. Okay? So this is how you create a void function in Python. Okay, so a void function may have parameters, just like what we have here. Okay, and then a void function may be without parameters, or it may not have parameters or parameter. So if it is without parameter, so it's like this only. There is nothing inside the parenthesis. And when you call it also, there is nothing inside the parenthesis. Okay? So as simple as this. It doesn't return a value. That's the characteristic of a void function. That's why it's called void. It doesn't return a value. Void means nothing, no? Or none. Okay? So that's the meaning of that. So it will not return anything. Okay? And again, when you call the function, just call the function by name. If without parameter, it will be like this. But if with arguments, okay, so you just have to list the parameters, separate them by comma. Okay, so again, these are what we call arguments, and these are what we call parameters. Okay, on my next video, I'm going to explain fruitful functions. Functions that return a value. That will be my next video. I hope you will watch that as well. Okay, so I think that's the end of this video. I hope you understand what was discussed here. Okay, so if you have any comments about this video, please write down your comment below. I guess that's it. Thank you very much for watching, and see you again on my next video.